All right. Wow. You guys have really outdone yourselves this time.
Yo.
The sheer volume of stuff you've sent us on the simulation hypothesis.
Really?
It's incredible. We've got YouTube videos from like all the big science experts, Kurzgesagt, John Michael Gaudier.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Even a clip from Joe Rogan with Lex Fridman. Can you believe it?
Sounds like someone's been doing some serious thinking.
Yeah. Clearly somebody out there is asking some deep questions.
About the nature of reality itself.
Exactly. So are we all just characters in some kind of cosmic video game?
It would be the strangest thing, right?
Oh, no, it really wouldn't.
Oh.
Well, let's dive in and see what we can uncover, shall we?
Let's do it.
Now, it's pretty fascinating how this idea has kind of moved from,
From the fringes of science fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Into, like, mainstream discussion,
You're right. It's not just sci-fi nerds talking about it anymore.
Right? We've got philosophers, physicists.
Even tech leaders taking it seriously.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's wild. So for anyone who's just joining us in this...
In this existential crisis.
Yeah, basically. We're talking about the possibility.
That our reality.
Yeah. Our reality is actually
A hyper-realistic simulation.
Yeah. Like, what if everything we experience is just data in some super advanced computer program?
It's a mind-bending concept, for sure.
No kidding.
But one that more and more thinkers are taking seriously.
It's kind of like the Matrix,
Yes.
right? But
Yeah.
hopefully with a little less leather and...
And angst.
yeah, exactly.
Let's hope for that.
Fingers crossed. But, it was really philosopher Nick Bostrom.
Ah, yes, his simulation argument.
Right, that kind of brought this whole idea.
Into the philosophical spotlight.
Yeah, for sure. His trilemma, right?
Yeah.
Argues that one of three things has to be true.
It's a pretty compelling argument, actually.
Okay, so let me see if I can remember this right.
Go for it.
Civilizations either never reach the tech level to create these kinds of simulations,
Right.
or they reach it, but they decide not to make them.
For whatever reason.
Or, and this is the wild part,
The part that really gets people thinking.
we're probably in one right now.
It's a pretty stark set of possibilities.
I know, right? Like, one of those has to be the case.
According to Bostrom's logic, yes.
But what makes people think that we're actually in a simulation right now? Like, is it just because...
Well, the Matrix imagery is certainly evocative,
For sure.
but there's more to it than that.
Okay, so what else is there?
Think about how quickly video game technology has progressed,
Oh, yeah. Like, a couple of decades ago, we were playing...
Pixelated blobs on a screen?
Yeah, and now we've got these huge, immersive worlds.
That feel almost real.
I know. It's crazy.
That's exactly the point.
So the tech itself is like a clue.
It certainly suggests that creating convincing simulations is...
Within the realm of possibility.
Definitely.
Okay, so we went from Super Mario Bros. To, like, exploring entire galaxies.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It really is. And the characters you interact with,
They feel so real sometimes.
they really do. It's a little creepy sometimes. But, I mean, at this rate, who even knows what gaming's going to look like?
In a century.
I know. It's mind-blowing.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It really, really does.
And that's precisely the point that Rizwan Virk makes in his,
In his Toxic Google presentation.
Right. You've seen that one.
Of course. He basically argues that the technology to create, like, these totally indistinguishable simulations.
Is on this, exponential trajectory.
Yeah, he says it's moving faster than we can even imagine.
Absolutely. The lines between information and reality are
Blurring.
yeah, more and more each day.
It's kind of freaky, but also really exciting, right?
It's definitely both. But this brings up another question.
Okay, what's that?
Is there anything suggesting that we're already a simulation?
As opposed to, like, heading towards that possibility?
Exactly. And this is where things get really interesting.
Oh, I love when things get interesting. Lay it on me.
Well, you know the double slit experiment, right?
Oh, yeah. That one's a classic. The one with the particles that, like...
They act differently when they're being observed.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like they know they're being watched.
It's as if reality itself changes based on whether we're looking or not.
Right. That Kurzgesagt video, Is Reality Real? They explained it so well.
They do such a great job of breaking down complex topics.
Don't they?
It's like the particles don't decide what to do until they're measured.
Almost as if reality is only rendering what's being observed.
You know, like in a video game.
Yeah. To save processing power, right? Only showing you what's on the screen.
Precisely.
Okay, so we're connecting quantum physics to video games now.
It's all connected, my friend.
I am so here for this. So is that what Virk is suggesting?
He does draw a pretty compelling connection.
Okay, so he's saying that maybe our universe is optimized in the same way.
It's an interesting idea, isn't it?
It really is. Like, what if reality is only rendered on demand, only for the observer? Just like,
Like a video game.
yeah, exactly.
It's a trippy thought for sure.
Trippy doesn't even begin to describe it. But okay, hold on.
What is it?
What about those weird, like, quantum entanglement experiments?
Ah, yes, the spooky action at a distance.
That's the one, where two particles are linked.
Across vast distances.
Yeah, and it's like they're sharing information instantly.
Like they're communicating faster than the speed of light.
It's like the universe has its own internet or something. But
What's on your mind?
there was this other video, Space Matters, I think it was called.
I think I've seen that one.
They were talking about black holes
Oh, yeah, fascinating objects.
and how information might be encoded on their surface. Like,
Like a hologram.
yes. So what if entanglement is how the universe transmits information?
Without breaking the cosmic speed limit.
It's like instead of fiber optic cables, we've got quantum entanglement.
It's a pretty elegant solution if you think about it.
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, my brain is officially fried.
We've only just scratched the surface.
I know, and I'm already loving it. But okay, one more thing before we move on.
Yeah.
If we are living in some cosmic video game, what about consciousness?
Ah, yes, the big question.
Is that simulated too? Like if we're just lines of code, does that mean our thoughts and feelings and experiences?
Are they even real?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. It's a tough one, right?
It's one of the biggest mysteries we face.
Because on one hand, if it's all just ones and zeros, then it's like, is any of this even real?
It makes you question everything.
But then on the other hand, it feels real,
Our experiences have a certain undeniable quality.
Yeah, exactly. So how do we make sense of that?
It's a puzzle that philosophers and scientists have been grappling with for centuries.
I remember that Simulation Hypothesis documentary dove into this whole debate about...
Materialism versus idealism.
Right. Like, is consciousness a product of matter, or is matter a product of consciousness?
It's like Democritus and Plato are still arguing it out in our brains today.
That's a great way to put it. And honestly, I don't think we have a definitive answer yet.
Not yet, no.
But even if our world eye has a simulation...
Our experiences still feel real to us.
Yeah, they do.
And that has to count for something.
You're right, it does. I mean, this conversation, even if it's all ones and zeros behind the scenes...
It feels pretty real to me right now.
It does to me, too. So maybe that's all that matters, right?
It's certainly a perspective worth considering.
It is. But, it's interesting you brought up the philosophical side of things.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid with a topic like this.
Have you noticed how some Eastern philosophies, like
reincarnation?
Yeah, they kind of resonate with this simulation idea.
It's true, there are some interesting parallels.
It's like leveling up in a game.
Dying and respawning with a new character.
Exactly. Verk talks about that a lot, actually.
He does, doesn't he? It's a compelling analogy.
It really is. So reincarnation could be seen as...
a series of lives.
Each one's like a level in a game.
And we learn and evolve through each lifetime.
And karma.
Maybe it's like the game's reward system.
Right. Like you do good things, you get good karma points.
And vice versa.
So reviewing your life after death.
Could be like watching a replay of your gameplay.
Seeing all your choices and their consequences. That's amazing.
It's definitely a more high-tech way of looking at it.
Than, like, those poor recording angels up in heaven.
Frantically scribbling down every good and bad deed.
I know. Can you imagine? But, speaking of glitches...
Oh, you think there might be some.
Well, if we are in a simulation, wouldn't there be some telltale signs?
Some cracks in the code.
Yeah. Like, remember that cat in the Matrix?
Well, when they kept repeating.
Yeah. Or those moments where you're like, I swear I've lived through this exact moment before.
Deja vu.
Exactly.
It's a strange phenomenon for sure.
It is. And Philip K. Dick, the science fiction writer.
I know him, yeah.
He actually thought deja vu was a sign of tampering with the simulation.
Interesting. And there are others who believe that?
Maybe even, like, certain unexplained phenomena?
Could be glitches in the Matrix?
Exactly. Like, even with advanced technology, there would have to be some anomalies, right?
It's certainly possible.
Especially when you think about the limitations of processing power,
Even the most advanced simulations would likely have some quirks.
Yeah. So maybe those weird dreams, those synchronicities...
They might be more than just coincidence.
Whoa. Okay, so if we're all just living in a simulation, does that mean our choices don't matter?
It's a question that comes up a lot, isn't it?
Like, can we just do whatever we want? No consequences? Because it's all just a game.
It's tempting to think that way.
Right.
But even in a simulated world, our choices would still shape our experience.
Within that world.
Exactly. And as Verk points out, if we want to keep the simulation running...
We probably shouldn't be pushing any self-destruct buttons.
Wise words.
No Grand Theft Auto in real life, huh? But on a more serious note,
Go on.
think about the implications for, like, virtual reality and artificial intelligence,
Ah, yes. Verk talks about reaching a simulation point.
where our tech becomes so advanced that we can create simulated worlds that are...
Indistinguishable from reality?
And we're already seeing, like, mind-blowing advancements in VR and AI.
It's moving incredibly fast.
It really is. Imagine what we'll be able to do in a few decades.
Let alone centuries.
I know, right? And with quantum computing on the horizon,
The possibilities are truly endless.
it's like we're becoming the architects of our own simulated realities.
Which leads to a very interesting question.
Hit me with it.
If WE can create simulations, how do we know WE aren't already in one?
Oh, wow.
It's a thought that can really send your head spinning.
You're telling me. So we could be living in a simulation.
Within a simulation.
And then in simulation.
It's like those Russian nesting dolls.
But for universes.
Exactly. It's enough to make anyone question everything they thought they knew.
Okay, I definitely need a break after this.
We all need a break from reality sometimes.
Maybe I'll grab a nice non-simulated cup of tea. But before we go, you mentioned something about the many worlds interpretation.
Ah, yes. That's a whole other rabbit hole.
What's that all about?
Well, the many worlds interpretation basically suggests...
Okay, that every time a quantum measurement is made, the universe splits.
What? Like, it creates copies?
In a sense, yes.
Wow.
Creating parallel universes.
For each possible outcome.
Precisely. Imagine a universe where you took that job offer, another where you stayed in that relationship, another where you won the lottery.
So you're saying there could be countless versions of me out there, each living out a different path based on every choice I could have made.
It's a wild idea, isn't it?
Wild is an understatement. I don't know if I find that incredibly exciting or utterly terrifying.
Probably a bit of both.
Yeah, you're probably right. But how does that tie into the simulation hypothesis?
Well, if each of those parallel universes is its own separate simulation,
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
it raises even more questions about the nature of reality and our place within it.
Mind blown. Again. So, are we the protagonists of our own simulated universe?
Or are we NPCs in someone else's game?
Or are we all just bits of data in some vast cosmic consciousness?
The possibilities are truly mind-boggling. You can say that again.
But these are questions that we may never have definitive answers to.
True, but it's still fun to explore them, right?
Absolutely. Exploring these possibilities challenges our assumptions about the world.
And opens our minds to new ways of thinking.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
It's a paradox, but it's true.
It really is. But even if it's all a simulation, the search for knowledge, the connections we make,
Experiences we have.
they're still real to us, all right?
They are.
And ultimately, that's what truly matters.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so we've gone from supercomputers to cosmic consciousness to a multiverse of infinite possibilities.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. But where do we even go from here?
That's the exciting part.
What do you mean?
The journey has just begun.
I like the sound of that. All right, everyone, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be diving even deeper into the simulation hypothesis.
Don't go anywhere.
A giant thought. Okay, now we're really getting out there.
Yeah, it's a pretty radical idea.
But fascinating, right? So instead of lines of code, we're talking about pure consciousness.
That's the basic idea.
I remember that quote from Max Planck,
The father of quantum theory.
Yes,
Yeah.
in the Simulation Hypothesis documentary.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
He said something like, all matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force.
We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind.
This mind is the matrix of all matter.
Powerful stuff, isn't it?
It really is. So instead of being made of stuff, the universe is more like, what? An idea.
That's the essence of idealism.
Consciousness is fundamental.
And the physical world is a projection of that consciousness.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it, but
It's a big concept to wrap your head around.
it really is. It's like the universe is a cosmic dream.
Now you're getting it.
Whoa, that's pretty wild. But if the universe is a dream, whose dream is it?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
Some believe in a universal consciousness.
Like a cosmic mind.
Exactly. Others suggest it's more like a collective dream,
A shared reality.
created by all conscious beings.
Okay, that's heavy.
It is.
It's like both beautiful and kind of terrifying,
I understand what you mean.
to think we might all be part of this giant cosmic dream. But it also makes you realize how connected we all are, right?
Absolutely. It breaks down the illusion of separation.
It really does.
Okay.
Okay, we've got to come back to this later, but for now,
How is it?
let's try to bring things back down to earth for a minute.
Ground ourselves a bit.
Exactly. Because honestly, my head's starting to spin. What are some of the practical implications of all this, Especially as we look towards the future.
Good point. It's easy to get lost in the metaphysical weeds.
No kidding. So, if this whole simulation hypothesis thing is true, how should we be approaching things like, technology and ethics and stuff?
That's a big question, and one that doesn't have any easy answers.
It could have huge implications, right, for how we understand science and how we make choices.
Absolutely. Some people might even wonder, if we're just characters in a simulation.
Do our actions even have real consequences?
It's a valid question.
Because it's tempting to think, well, if it's all just a game,
Why not just go wild? No harm, no foul.
Right.
But even in a simulated world, our choices still shape our experience.
Within that world.
Precisely. It's like, even if you're playing a video game,
Your choices still matter.
they determine how the story unfolds.
And how you feel about it.
And, as Verk reminds us, if we want to keep the simulation running, we probably shouldn't be pushing any self-destruct buttons.
Yikes. So no Grand Theft Auto in real life, huh?
Probably best to avoid that.
But, okay, on a more serious note, what about the implications for, virtual reality and AI?
That's a huge area of potential impact.
As Work talks about this simulation point, right?
Where our tech becomes so advanced that we can create simulated worlds that are indistinguishable from reality.
And we're already seeing some crazy advancements, right?
In VR, in AI.
Imagine what'll be possible in a few decades, let alone centuries.
It's both exciting and a little bit daunting.
And with quantum computing on the horizon,
the possibilities become truly mind-boggling.
it's like we're becoming the architects of our own simulated realities.
Which, again, leads to that very intriguing question.
You're going to say it, aren't you?
If WE can create simulations, how do we know WE aren't already in one?
Mind blown. Again?
It's a question that can keep you up at night.
No kidding. So we could be living in a simulation within a simulation within a simulation.
It's turtles all the way down, as they say.
Like those Russian nesting dolls, but for universes.
It's a truly mind-bending thought.
You're not wrong. Okay, I definitely need another break after this.
I hear you.
Maybe another cup of that non-simulated tea. But before we go any further,
Something else on your mind?
you mentioned something earlier about the many worlds interpretation.
Ah, yes. That's where things get really wild.
What's that all about? Fill me in.
Well, the many worlds interpretation, it basically suggests that every time a quantum measurement is made, the universe splits, creating parallel universes for each possible outcome.
Hold on, you mean there could be countless versions of us out there?
Living out different paths based on every choice we could have made.
Wow.
It's a dizzying concept.
That's one way to put it. I don't know if that's incredibly exciting or utterly terrifying.
Maybe both.
You're probably right. But how does that connect to the simulation hypothesis?
If each of those parallel universes is its own separate simulation,
Oh, I see where you're going with this. It raises even more questions about the nature of reality.
and our place within it,
So, are we the protagonists of our own simulated universe?
or are we NPCs in someone else's game?
Or are we all just bits of data in some vast cosmic consciousness?
These are questions that might keep us debating for centuries.
It's like that saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
It's a paradox, but it's a beautiful one.
It really is. But even if it's all a simulation,
The search for knowledge,
the connections we make, the experiences we have,
they're still real to us.
they are.
And ultimately, that's what matters.
I love that. But okay, I have to ask,
What is it?
if we are in a simulation, wouldn't the creators have left some kind of clue?
Like a hidden message?
Yeah, something for us to find.
It's certainly possible.
But maybe it's so subtle that we haven't recognized it yet.
Blended seamlessly into the fabric of reality.
Or maybe the clue is the simulation itself,
Yeah.
The very fact that we're having this conversation, questioning our existence.
That could be the message.
Whoa.
It's a thought-provoking idea, isn't it?
It really is. You're thinking like a true deep diver. But what if the simulation hypothesis is only the beginning?
What do you mean?
We've talked about supercomputers and cosmic consciousness. But what if there's something even more mind-blowing lurking beneath the surface?
You're really pushing the boundaries now.
Well, why not? That's what deep dives are all about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
We've gone from supercomputers to cosmic consciousness to a multiverse of infinite possibilities.
It really makes you wonder what else is out there.
No kidding. What if reality is like so fundamentally different from anything we can even imagine right now?
What if our most advanced theories are like,
Like cave drawings.
yeah, compared to the real thing?
So all this talk about simulations,
It might not even be wrong.
it's just like way too simplistic.
It could be that we're trying to understand something that's simply beyond our capacity to grasp.
Like trying to explain quantum physics to a dog.
They just look at you with those big innocent eyes.
Totally clueless. But it's not their fault, right? Their brains just aren't wired for it.
Exactly. And remember what John Michael Godier said?
Refresh my memory.
He said, whatever is simulating the universe may never be understandable and may have motives that, when you look at them in a certain way, are utterly absurd.
It's like we try to make sense of the universe based on like our limited human understanding.
We project our own motivations and logic onto the unknown.
But what if the architect of reality, if there are even eyes on one,
Operates on principles that are just like completely alien to us?
we wouldn't even recognize it as intelligence,
It's
right?
humbling thought, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. Like we think we're so smart, at the top of the intelligence pyramid.
But what if we're just,
At the bottom.
it's a possibility?
Whoa. It's kind of like those cosmic horror stories.
Oh, yeah, I love those. Where the universe is ruled by these unfathomable beings.
Yeah, that are just beyond our comprehension.
It's both terrifying and fascinating.
It really is. But it doesn't have to be a horror story, right?
You're right, it doesn't.
What if instead of some malevolent force, the underlying reality is something like,
Something beautiful.
yeah, something that's beyond our understanding,
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately benevolent?
No, that's a thought I can get behind.
Right. But how do we even wrap our heads around something like that? Something so completely outside our frame of reference.
Honestly, we might not be able to.
It could be.
Trying to fit the ocean into a teacup.
I like that. But even if we can't fully grasp the true nature of reality,
Exploring these possibilities can still be incredibly enriching.
it pushes us to the limits of our understanding, right?
It challenges our assumptions and forces us to ask bigger questions.
It's like we're standing at the edge of the unknown.
Peering into this vast, mysterious abyss.
Terrifying.
Exhilarating.
Maybe both.
Definitely both. There's a profound beauty in that sense of wonder,
I know what you mean. Who knows, maybe this journey itself, this quest for knowledge and understanding,
Maybe that's the true purpose of the simulation, if there even is one.
maybe it's not about finding the definitive answers.
But about asking the right questions.
I like that. Remember that Neil deGrasse Tyson quote from Meta Rising?
He talked about how the simulators might enjoy reminiscing about the days before you could simulate.
Yeah. Maybe that's what we're doing right now. Exploring the mysteries of the universe, trying to understand how it all works.
It's a beautiful thought, isn't it?
So we're like those classic video game characters, forever etched into the history of the simulation.
Leaving our mark on the digital tapestry.
Not a bad legacy. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into the simulation hypothesis, what's the main takeaway for our listeners out there?
Even if everything we experience is part of some grand simulation, the pursuit of knowledge, the connections we forge, the love we share, the joy we experience, these things are still real to us.
And ultimately, that's what truly matters.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Beautifully put. Well, folks, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the simulation hypothesis. It's a topic that could keep us talking for hours, but hopefully this exploration has sparked some new thoughts and ideas for you. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep your mind open to the infinite possibilities of this incredible, mind-boggling reality, whatever it may be. Until next time, keep diving deep.